let's bring in our next panelists with us. Former acting director of national intelligence and former U.S. ambassador to Germany, Ambassador Ric Grenell. Ambassador, are you surprised by this further escalation? The Biden administration said that it would last over a series of days.
Yeah, look, they've messaged to the entire region that this is going to last over days. We took away the element of surprise. But, you know, Lydia, this whole last couple of days is really the third failure of the Biden administration. First, we have the failure of diplomacy. We've seen the failure of diplomacy in Ukraine and now throughout the Middle East. We see this as a failure of the Biden administration's Iran policy, where we took off the sanctions and now have fed the regime in Iran hundreds of billions of dollars in sanctions relief credit and cash. And now, as we are bombing the Houthis, this is a failure of our U.S. policy under Joe Biden towards the Houthis. The Trump administration, we had them on the terror list. The Biden team said, you know, we're going to remove them. They're not a terrorist organization. We're going to remove them. Now we're bombing them just, you know, a couple of years later. This administration, literally, you should do the opposite of what they're thinking, whether it's the border and they took away Trump policies there, the economy, gas prices, drilling, foreign policy. You really should do just the opposite. All Joe Biden had to do was keep the Trump policies on the border and keep the Trump policies on foreign policy, and we wouldn't have had multiple wars. I mean, I can't make it any more plain than Trump had the Houthis on the terrorist list. Joe Biden took them off, and now Joe Biden is bombing them.
I'm just reading this now online, and it's according to a senior U.S. administration official. The round of airstrikes launched by the U.S. and U.K. on Saturday further degrade the Houthis' capability to continue their illegal and reckless attacks against U.S. ships and international commercial vessels. The United States does not want escalation, and these strikes are directly in response to the actions by the Iranian-backed Houthis. They are unrelated to the action the U.S. took on Friday in response to the continued attacks on our troops and facilities in Iraq and Syria. There is a lot going on. There's a lot of chaos going on. They're calling it self-defense here. What do you make of all of this chaos and kind of very strategic and careful language by senior administration officials at the White House?
Look, it's going to get worse because the Biden administration is absolutely messing up as we speak. I just went through all of their policy changes from Trump that turned out to be a disaster that caused these wars. Now we're bombing the Houthis. But if you look at the administration lines, even over the last 24 hours, from the Pentagon to the White House, we have individuals literally doing backflips to try to be nice to the Iranian regime. They're saying we are not at war with Iran. That's ridiculous. Of course we are. Iran is funding the Houthis. Iran is funding Hezbollah. Iran is funding Hamas. It doesn't take a rocket science to know this. You don't have to be a member of the Council on Foreign Relations to know these basic facts. I think that this is a disaster mainly because the media in Washington, D.C. has allowed the Biden administration to keep messing up without pushback. So the Biden administration, literally without having consequences for their terrible policies, continues in these bad ways.
And why doesn't the media hold them responsible? Why do they act like the right-arm propaganda machine for the White House? I was a journalist, a reporter for many, many years. That's your job, to ask the tough questions, not to spew their rhetoric that they hand-deliver to you.
I think the media in Washington, D.C. and many journalists go into this because they want to be advocates. They have a viewpoint of the world. They're globalists, and they want to push an agenda. But I would say to the board members of CNN, the board members of AP, the board members of the LA Times, you're tanking. You're not doing well financially. Why don't you try to be in the middle? Why don't you try to be a real news organization in the middle and just see if that's a good business model? I think it would be. I don't think CNN would be in last place if they were trying to be fair. I don't think the LA Times would be laying people off if they were even remotely fair. So their ideological ways are bankrupting them, but they don't get it.
All right, Ambassador Grenell, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
All the best.